Well, good evening, folks. This is a pretty short video, just a quickie, really. Anybody that's watched my channel and seen my obsession with this Diversion 600 will know that I bought vacuum gauges and balanced the carbs and got the cams done, and the valve clearances done and so on. However, having done all that, I noticed there was a very, 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 very slight stutter. Going from tick over, and it's a very quick throttle on that. It probably only goes through about 50 degrees of turn, and I did notice that it was just a slight cough, a little splutter, if you see what I mean. Going from idle jet, tick over, and I thought I'm going to have to rebuild the carbs, take them out, strip them. Now, if you look at these carbs, the mouths point upwards, and I've replaced the diaphragms in the carbs, and they're new slides. I used the old needles though, and I replaced them, and it ran fine, as I posted recently on videos. Really, really fast, really responsive. But it just had this irritating little, I don't know, it's almost like one of the carbs wasn't doing what it should do, going from tick over to go to, I think it's the pilot jet, The minute the slides started moving, yeah, all fine and dandy, You probably I've heard it on other motorbikes actually, where you get a slight rough running, just for a split second, and it really bugged me. And I thought, I'm going to have to strip the carbs and so on. Now, I'm very well aware that you should leave well alone. If it's something's well, you don't muck about with it. But I thought I'm going to have to buy rebuild kits. And if you look here, this picture's taken when I had the carbs off the bike. You've got an air jet and another brass jet on those two holes on the back of the carb mouth there. And I thought, well, I'm going to have to, I can't live with this. It's just a very, very, very slight, splutter, unevenness when going from tick over to a bigger throttle opening. So I'm presuming it's the pilot jet. Correct me if I'm wrong. You can see on here, look, So you've got your main jet, you've got your throttle slides, which are new, and the diaphragms, because they're attached to them. You can just see on the left-hand side there, there's a brass jet. And I believe that one is screwed in and the other one is pressed in. So what I did, I bought this off eBay for about 17 quid, SEAFOAM. I'm pretty wary about, claims from manufacturers of additives that accomplish miracles, but I did a bit of research on it, and it's an American product, and I looked at videos on YouTube of people with pickup trucks and all sorts. Now, you can put this in the fuel, you can put it in your crankcase oil, you can put it actually in your oil prior to an oil change. You can add maybe 50 mil, 60 mil to your crankcase through your normal oil filler. Run it for 50 miles, drain your oil, and it allegedly gets rid of varnish and things out of carbs. So what I did was, I bought a tin of this. There's 475 mil in a tin, and I used the remote fuel tank, the saline drip hospital thing, on the bike. And what I did was I filled it with neat SEAFOAM. Now, you can add it to your fuel, about 50-50 mix with your fuel tank level low. But what I did was I put neat in there, and I connected it to the carburetor fuel intake. And then I ran the engine until it spluttered and stopped, because it wouldn't run purely on that, which meant the carbs had obviously got, that's what they say to do, and it fills your carburetor and so on with the product. And then I used a syringe there, and I squirted it into the mouths of the carburetors and down the the jets at the front and everything. And so at this point, I'd sort of really squirted loads of that into the mouth of the carb and down the jets that were exposed, with the float bowls pointing upwards. And I left it for 2 days. So effectively, the float bowls are full of this stuff, and the carb, all the little airways and what have you, fuel ways in the carb using the syringe had filled up. And I left it for 2 days. Then I drained the float bowls, started the bike. It produced large amounts of smoke, a bit like with Red X. When you pour Red X in and you get this huge amounts of smoke. Anyway, it did that for about 10 minutes actually, because it obviously dribbled down the carb mouths and gone in down the inlet manifolds and into the cylinders with open valves, you see. And I ran it. Then I used my vacuum gauges to rebalance the carbs, which were very slightly out for some reason. And then I took the bike out, and it absolutely transformed. It cured this irritating little cough. Absolutely cured it. It's gone. The bike is totally different. And that's not a sort of psychological, psychosomatic placebo effect. It really isn't. That little annoying little cough thing has completely gone. And the bike feels much crisper when accelerating. Because I've balanced the carbs, the clutch rattle has completely gone. There is no clutch rattle on it now at all. And it just works. This product really works. So I'd used about 100ml of the 475ml tin, squirting it in the carbs and everything. And then I had about a gallon of fuel in the fuel tank, and I poured the rest of it in. So it's now running on 1 gallon of fuel with about 300, 400 mil of that. And you can add it, as I say, to the fuel as well. And I'm going to run that tank down so it's still getting some of this SEAFOAM going through. Then I've ordered some more of it because it's so brilliant. And then I'm going to put some in the crankcase, 50ml or so, 60ml, run it for 50 miles, 75 miles maybe, and then do an oil change. And that apparently also transforms an engine, as I've seen on YouTube. So if you type in SEAFOAM, you'll see it. It's good for vehicles with fuel injectors, carburetors. I am amazed. I'm absolutely amazed, because I must admit, being a cynic naturally, I thought this is probably a load of rubbish, it's not going to work, and I'll have to strip the carbs and probably, end up stripping a jet or putting a screwdriver in and finding that the actual slot in the brass jet cracks or something, mission creep. I thought, I really don't want to be doing this. It was bad enough putting the carb diaphragms in, but this has cured it. What a difference. So I would recommend to anybody to use that product and get it neat into your carbs or your fuel injectors till your engine stalls. And then, like I say, I drain the carb float bowls after 2 days. I've been squirted it in the airways and the fuel ways with a syringe, and it has just transformed it. So I thought I'd just pass that on. I know a lot of people are very familiar with SEAFOAM, and I hear it mentioned a lot, but I'm amazed. And that Yamaha now, that little cough, little splutter, completely gone. Amazing. So in the meantime, take care on your bikes. I'm going to nip out now. It's getting dark here, but I'm going to go out on the Yamaha now, give it a good blast, and not be irritated by that cough. So if you're out on yours, be careful. Watch out for deer if you live anywhere in the countryside. I hit one with my car 2 years ago. It wrote the car off and nearly killed me. Had I been on a motorcycle, I would have definitely not been making this video. So if you're out there, watch out for antlers in the hedges and these suicidal deer that apparently run towards headlamps. So take care, and I'll post again soon. Bye for now.